Today's words of wisdom on leadership include advice and counsel, character, and courage. So stay tuned. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, and we inspire. And we are getting closer to the end of a series based upon the book Leadership Secrets of Attila the Hun, a best-selling book that it's sort of a Bible for leaders, to be very candid with you, by a gentleman named Wess Roberts, who's a PhD. So let's get right into it, and let's start with some advice and counsel. Written reports have purpose only if read by the king. When you are preparing for a battle, when you are preparing for a confrontation, it is critical that the leader has all of the information, because if that person does not have all of the information, if your leader doesn't know it all, then they're in a position where they can't make the best judgments. Does that make sense? So written reports have to be seen by the king. Makes sense, because the king always knows a little bit more than the chieftains. A king with chieftains who always agree with him reaps the counsel of mediocrity. You want to have people surrounding you in your orbit that agree with what you want to accomplish, but not always the same way that you want to accomplish it. As a matter of fact, the United States government is set up that way, is it not? Where you have people that theoretically are looking for the benefit of the nation as a whole, but the way of arriving there may be different. That's what makes an organization strong, when there are different methods to consider to get to a particular endpoint. A wise chieftain never kills the Hun bearing bad news. Rather, the wise chieftain kills the Hun who fails to deliver the bad news. Once again, the king has to know all of the information. He or she cannot be surprised. You can't act properly without all the information. So it's very important that you tell your people, hey, I don't just want to hear the good news, I want to hear the bad news also. I want to hear where there are potential trouble spots. That way we can overcome them in advance. Does that make sense? A chieftain who asks the wrong questions always hears the wrong answers. Too many leaders only ask questions where they're going to get positive returns. You got to find out the whole picture. You can't just, be a fair weather king. Life isn't that way. There are good things and there are bad things, and you have to know both. You have to be willing to ask those tough questions. A wise chieftain never asks a question for which he doesn't want to hear the answer. Sometimes you don't want to know, right? Sometimes you don't want to know, and so you don't ask those questions if it's a question about a particular person or a particular scenario, whatever. If for the greater good, sometimes you have to keep things kind of confidential. Character. The greatness of a Hun is measured by the sacrifices he is willing to make for the good of the nation. That's how you figure out who your winning people are. You see the sacrifices that they're willing to make for the cause. Those are the people that you can trust. A chieftain should always rise above pettiness and cause his Huns to do the same. Too many times, people in leadership positions who have power, right, use an example of their power instead of the power of their example. And if someone in your kingdom has done something petty, that's not permission for you to do something petty, because you are the leader. You are above that. You're leading by example. Pettiness is not the example that you want to present to your people, to your Huns. A chieftain cannot win if he loses his nerve. He should be self-confident and self-reliant. Even if he does not win, he will know he's done his best. The person in charge has to have confidence. Why? because everybody is starving for leadership and they're looking to that person as their example. So if you have any chance to win at all, the leader has to be a person with confidence. Don't ever let them see you sweat. A chieftain does not have to be brilliant to be successful, but he must have an insatiable hunger for victory, absolute belief in his cause, and an invincible courage that enables him to resist those who would otherwise discourage him. The key element of being a leader is having the ability to lead. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to know how to make use of the smart people in the room. And you also have to know how to be true to your cause. Once again, leaders lead by example. True to your cause, and not let the outside noise, the discouraging voices, have an effect on you. Once the decision is made, run with the decision. Seldom are self-centered, conceited, and self-admiring chieftains great leaders, but they are great idolizers of themselves. Nobody in particular comes to mind in my particular case. Donald Trump! Excuse me. So keep that in mind. Great chieftains never take themselves too seriously. A wise chieftain adapts. He doesn't compromise. When you have basic principles, you can adapt those, you adapt to those principles, but you don't compromise those principles. Those principles are your foundation. They are your foundation, and you have to stick with those principles. Chieftains who drink with their Huns become one with them and are no longer their chieftain. Okay, we're talking about socialization here. It's important for the chieftain, for the king, to know what motivates the people directly below them. But if you go out and party with them, then you become one of them and you lose credibility and you lose authority. So you always have to remember, you've got to keep a separation. That is one of the places where you keep a separation. Weak chieftains surround themselves with weak Huns. Strong chieftains surround themselves with strong Huns. If you want to be an entity, a force, you need to have strong people around you. Weak people that just always agree with what you say are comforting, but they're not going to help move you forward, take big steps. You have to be able to look at different paradigms, different perspectives. Once again, leadership is very similar to the success formula. All right, when as a person striving for success, to reach a certain goal, a burning ambition, that you have a burning desire, you have to be willing to accept feedback and say, all right, I'm not going in the right direction, and you have to have the courage to make a new direction. Well, as a leader, you have to have people around you that are willing to point out to you, hey, we're not going in the right direction. This would be my suggestion, a different perspective, a different angle. That is a key to success, whether you're an individual or as a team. As a chieftain achieves greater success, the jealousy others feel for him intensifies. When people see somebody successful, there's a jealousy that occurs. We all know that. How do you know that? When you go on social media and everyone's telling you, embellishing, they did this, they did that, this happened to him, that happened to him. You say, boy, I wish. All right? And there's a jealousy that evolves from that. Same thing is true with leadership. As you become a better leader, people become more jealous of your position. Courage. Huns must learn early that working through a hardship is an experience that influences them all the days of their lives. One of the things that's critical in developing leaders is you've got to put them in positions of stress, where you've got to put them in position where they're being challenged. And when they overcome that challenge, and that's a lesson that you learn, it's like, hey, I did it before, now I can do it again with this new issue. Critical in the development of a leader. Successful Huns learn to deal with adversity and to overcome mistakes. Once again, success formula mirrors what it takes to be a successful leader. You have to learn to overcome roadblocks, potholes, detours, and to overcome mistakes. You got to remember that failure is temporary until you make it final. You've got to get to a new starting line. Same thing is true in leadership. A Hun can achieve anything for which he is willing to pay the price. Competition thins out at the top of the ranks. As you go to the mountaintop, you're going to find that the air gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and so will the people that you're competing with, because it's more challenging. It takes more courage. It takes more persistence. And those are the qualities that separate the mediocre from the great to the super great. You've got to be able to overcome that adversity. And once again, once you get to that very top level, you'll see that there aren't that many people around you that are competing at that same level. But there will be some competition, so be prepared to fight. Okay, we've gone over a number of different things today. We're continuing with leadership secrets from Attila the Hun, and hope that you can apply them to your personal scenario and your business scenario. Until next time, let's always remember, hey, don't ration the passion, fashion the passion. I'm Eli's dad.